Tarot Space Tuesdays, just to like have a place to get together like casually and talk about tarot and like what's going on for us, or I don't know, like interesting different thematic stuff that comes up for us as readers. So tonight is predictive reading versus proactive reading. And the reason I chose that for tonight's theme was that it was a question that actually came up for me, not only in a private exchange with someone, but also I was speaking to a North Carolina tarot meetup group, and this woman said, Sash, what do you do when somebody wants you to be really predictive and kind of like tell them their future with the cards, but maybe that's not something I'm comfortable doing? Like, how do you deal with that? So I just want to talk about some of these things, and I think that they apply, predictive and proactive. Not only do they apply first and foremost most to us as we read for ourselves, but then of course it definitely informs how we read for other people. And whether or not you are a professional reader who reads for money or who is looking to build a business, or whether you're just doing it out of a passion for tarot, or you're practicing on your friends and family in order to get to know your deck better, this is all stuff that comes up. Now, there is no right or wrong. There is no black or white. And in fact, there's such tremendous gray area in between the two. So we'll talk hopefully a little bit about the finer points. So I'm just curious, actually, with a show of hands, if I could see, and you could probably raise your hands for both, how many of you guys really do give predictive readings to yourselves and or to other people with the tarot cards, saying this is something that is definitely looks like it's going to happen? All right, that's a good number of you. Excellent. And how many of you really give proactive readings, really what like where you'll just like rephrase a question and right? So a lot of us, some little, yeah. So it's like it's a good mix, right? And it's interesting because the more I was thinking tonight about how to talk about this, the more I realized uh, there's such a fine line between the two, and even how, it can be hard for, like, you can say, you can sort of say this is the way that I read, and this is how I give information, and then one thing leads to another. It's kind of like, oh, I didn't mean to sleep with them, but after a while, it just got away from me, and then all of a sudden there we were, naked and hot and bothered, and I was predicting the future like crazy. I mean, it happens. So I suppose the first thing that's always, it's always interesting also to check back in with yourself, and this is often done well as journaling exercises, to just figure out where you sit in terms of how predictive reading feels to you. I don't consider myself, for instance, a super predictive reader, but when I first was like playing with the cards and really getting to learn, I wanted to know what was going to happen, right? I really like dove into the cards and was reading, let's see what's going on in your life and this, that, and the other thing. So the first thing you have to do is, what does it mean to be a predictive reader? And 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 if you and then what does it mean to be a proactive reader? And is there some space, like right in between? So okay, if it looks like the XYZ is going to happen, how much importance do you place upon free will, right? And personal responsibility. And it's this really crazy thing, because the deeper you go into metaphysics, the more you start to recognize, well, there really kind of is no past and there is no future. There's really only right now and all of the possibilities therein. But at the same time, we're working with those things that haven't manifested yet necessarily in the material world. And underneath all of that, we all feel things, intuit things, and know things in wildly different ways. Like, Ginger, I love when you talk, right, about you always have a very visceral reaction. If you could actually speak to that, like what tends to happen to you when you're like really cued in a reading, if you don't mind sharing, because I love it.
You mean when I'm like on point or something?
Yeah. Like
Okay.
often that happens in here when we're talking.
Well, I do like to balance my readings, but when I'm on, when I start to feel, let's say, spirit talking, I get more animated and more alive, and then when I do that, things just start flowing a little better. And then if I'm on an off night, I'm like, I cannot find one word. I know what I want to say, but it's not coming out. But yeah, I don't know. When you know you're on point, it's like flow starts happening and tingling start going on, and it just like, okay, now I'm here.
Yeah. It's one of those crazy things that's really it can be very hard to articulate. It's hard to have words. Like sometimes the best thing you can say is, "Oh, hi Trey, nice to see you." Sometimes the best, way to say, well, when you know, you just know. And if I can ask you and actually anybody else, when you are cued in about an event that the cards say is likely to happen, is that different for you than just being kind of channeling? In other words, what's the difference from like, can you differentiate between something that you know beyond a shadow of a doubt is like an almost unavoidable outcome? Or,
Yeah, you tend to hesitate too if it's something that you don't think the current would agree with or want to hear, and then you try to articulate, well, what's the best roundabout way of cushioning something like that, and offer suggestions. Um, yeah, that one's a little,
it's tricky.
it's challenging. It
And
can
what
be challenging.
and what if the information that's coming up for you, for any of us, is something that seems like will you, and how comfortable are any of us relaying information that might be really scary for someone to hear, or really terrifying or depressing?
Yeah, and it depends on your current too, because I just did it for my a cousin of mine, well, by marriage, and she asked about a relationship, which I don't like to do relationships readings, but you try to tell them in, you pick and choose your words. You know they're not going to hear it, and then when you do say it, they want to argue the point, and um, sometimes you just got to know your boundaries and know when to just sit back and say, okay, they're not ready to hear this, and I've tried in certain ways.
Right. Marianella, you had your hand up. Yes.
Oh, I was going to say, usually by the time people ask me for a reading, they're already in some kind of state.
Right.
So, and I make it very clear. It's like, I'm going to tell you what you probably don't want to hear that you already know. So I also give them the freedom to say, well, maybe I don't want this reading,
Mm.
because I kind of feel that if I'm holding anything back from them, then I'm doing myself a disservice and them a disservice. Though I totally understand. It's kind of like, you don't want to be the one to shit on somebody's Sunday.
No. But see, and so what, so you, by having a very clear boundary line, and making sure that your clients or your friends, their expectations, or they understand exactly where they're going to be going with you, does make it a very, very safe space then for you to be able to open up and be blunt and be honest and feel as if, you did what you said you were going to do, right? You were responsible and that nothing was held back. But you also gave them a chance. See, and so that's really the idea of setting boundaries and knowing who you are and how you work, and and what really not only is for their highest good, but for your highest good as a reader, right? Because you want to be operating within the truth of who it is that you are. So yeah, that's fantastic. What about,
Can I share?
oh yes, please. Please.
When I do readings, actually, when I start, I always say to my clients, you are walking on a road. and then you're gonna see a tree, you're gonna see a river, and then if you wanna walk in the road, go up on the tree or jump in the river is gonna be your choice. So I always do Grand Tableau Lenormand, and I say like, there is something about this, there is some, but it's very general. And then when I finish the Lenormand, that I open the tarot, I say like, now you think what you wanna know, because if you ask, the tarot is gonna answer. So I do something like a general thing, and then I say, oh, you see, there is something about the relation, which is a little complicated, but if you want, you can ask for the tarot later. I do, like an introduction, for the Lenormand Grand Tableau, and then the person say, oh, I want to know that. So if you want to know, you're going to ask, because something that I believe that the question is the needle that is going to sew the reading. If you don't have a question, if it's open, you're not going to be answering, something which is can be very complicated. If you see somebody's going to die, but if you're not asking that, you can say like, oh, somebody can have any problem, depending on how you manage, and this I know how to manage very well, because I do this for around 30 years. So I manage very well this. So I always tell, now we're going to open the tarot. You tell me what you want to know, what you really want to know, because the tarot is going to answer. So my clients know. If they don't want to know, they just don't ask.
They know. See, and that's good. So again, and what's beautiful about how you've laid it out is you're literally giving them kind of a mental picture. Like, okay, like here we are on a path, the river, the tree, like, so you're really like,
yeah, I explain, because some people, they come for the first time, they don't know what it is about, and then I say like, the river is like a flow. Another image that I use, like we're in a boat in a river. So this is the hereafter, okay? So if you're in a boat and the river is going to that direction, if you don't want, you gotta do something, to go to the other. If you don't do nothing, the river is gonna take you there. So sometimes the person can have a choice, but the person is like reactive, like waiting something to happen to move, a reactive action. And if the person change this mind to a proactive action, of course, things might be better, because then you can analyze, and this I'm trying to, help them understand the process, explaining how it is,
Yep.
something like that.
So I think that's fantastic. I think that's great. And actually, if I assigned homework for this, which of course I don't, but if I did, I would say like it's not a bad idea for all of you guys to kind of, I don't know, sit back and think, like if you were going to describe visually what you're doing, like if you were going to do like kind of like, and maybe it would be a tarot card that you're kind of opening up, what your threshold looks like, what the sacred kind of imagination of the space around your reading space actually is, as you're inviting someone in to join you. I think that's really, really beautiful. And back to, I think, what Ginger had raised quickly, which was interesting, is this idea of sometimes being so cued in a reading, and like all your bells and whistles are going off. You've got like, like goosebumps on the back of your neck and chills, and you're like, and something else is like speaking through you, something greater than you has come. And then there are those times when you're like, you feel almost like a dead fish in the reading, right? And it's funny, because I've discovered for myself as a reader, I don't necessarily have to know I don't have to be a 10 alarm fire when I'm reading for someone, because that's the strength of the cards. That's the strength of the story that's in front of you. The images are giving you something to go on. And I'm sure all of us have had readings where I didn't know what I was saying. And those are the ones that maybe they call you up, a week or two later, and they're like, oh my God, they reach out, and that you don't know what you said, but somehow they were able to fill in the blanks. And of course, it made lots of sense to them. I'd love to also put out this question to you guys. What and how have you dealt with when you very strongly were giving predictive readings, and you had been right many times in the past, and it was wrong. It was wrong, and in fact, maybe it kind of blew up in their face. They took your advice, or they were excited, or XYZ, and they came back to you. Has anyone ever come back to you sort of? Yes, Lisa.
So I really work hard on not really having typically like regular clients, because I want to see great things happen for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had 2 clients that have been pretty spiritual that I've blindsided one. I literally was doing a reading and there was a divorce. And to me, it felt like a close family member. So it was actually hers. Like the whole scenario, I'm reading the mother-in-law and everything. And I was like, I felt horrible. She was blindsided. I was blindsided. She's still a great client. I had to take ownership for that. And I had another one that was a fellow shaman that would come and get readings from me. And the guy looked great. And the cards were laid out for like marriage and romance and love. And when I laid it, I just had no clue it wasn't her, because I wanted to see all those good things for her.
Right.
So for me, it's really important for me to make sure I have correct boundaries with my clients, because I want to see great things happen to them. And I have to really look at how close we're getting with our clients and stuff. So that for me, those are 2 big ones that I've really hit.
And I'm sorry, my reading is so my little Andrea. Yes.
Hello, everybody. Well, I was trained to predict. I mean, that was the reason why people were going to come to me. They were going to ask a question. I consulted the tarot, used my own spiritual gifts to aid that experience for the querent. And within that, there are boundaries. I want to know how you don't do relationship questions, because that's the majority of my my work. I mean, people come to me either because, some relationship issue, or they want it to be great, or, something, and how can they make it great, and so on. And I see my role as looking at what the cards say, and also my spiritual guides, what they're telling me, and allowing the querent to be the person in power. And they're going to be making choices and presenting the issue, presenting the circumstances, presenting what I'm seeing the cards tell us, gives the individual the choice. So I'm never going to tell somebody what to do. I'm going to say, you might not want to go down that path, because, the cards are showing that the time, there's a timing issue or something like that. I'm not going to say, no, you should never do that, or go out and buy this right now, get this right now, or whatever. It's their choice. What do you want in this relationship? Is this person really, do you believe that by the behaviors you've seen and what the cards are telling us, do you believe this individual is really going to, be sincere with you? And I'm seeing in the cards that this person is a liar. I'm not going to say this person is a liar. I'm going to say it looks like this person has some difficulty being sincere. So again, it's kind of like the words that you say. So I kind of, and it was a lot of trial and error, because sometimes I don't use the right words. But that helps for individuals. It helps when then you don't have somebody come back and say, you were totally wrong. Although, I haven't been very clear sometimes, because I wasn't getting the exact answer they wanted. So in that way, sometimes I'm wrong. They want to know if this relationship is going to work out with person X. And the cards are telling me that this individual, it's definitely the person here, needs to do, you know, a lot of inner work before any relationship will work out. You know, nothing's going to go well for this individual until they do some, you know, emotional development, some spiritual development. And so I have to focus on what the cards are saying and not necessarily like, you know, yeah, this is, you know, they always want to know, is this my twin flame? And you know, are we destined? You know, is this fate? You know, they want that true love. And I'm seeing that like this person, you know, no matter who they're with, it's not going to work out. I'm not going to say that, but I'm going to talk about some ways to develop that emotional maturity and spiritual development and talk about what the cards are telling us. So I kind of get out of not having someone come back and say, you were so wrong, he dumped me,
Right.
kind of thing and they keep coming back. So,
which is great because I mean, because in that way, like you're being predictive and proactive. Predictive inside of yourself, you can kind of see the writing on the wall, but you're giving them the proactive information that they need. And so by sticking with the proactive, you're never going to put yourself necessarily in a corner where somebody's going to come back and say, you know, it snowed when you said that it was going to rain. And
Can I say one thing, Sasha?
yes, and
Just
then
one-
I think, and just
Yeah.
then after, I think Marianne, I think you had something to say.
Something related to what Andrea said,
Yes.
that you have somebody that you see that is not fit. I have this type of things all the time. So what I do actually, I help them to observe different scenarios of the because they have to, like she said, they have to take the action themselves. We cannot tell them, do this, do that. But yes, we can say, let's see in the tarot card if you stay with him. Let's see in the tarot card if you do not stay with him. So let's ask, if you stay with him, then what? If you don't stay with him, then what? So I analyze the scenarios, you know, to help the person, you know, but in the end, say, what can I do? I say, no, I'm not going to tell you, decide. But I help them analyzing the scenarios.
I love that. That's one of my favorite things to do is comparative stairway spreads. So it's 3 cards up a stairs if you do, and 3 cards up a stairs if you don't. And you get so much information. It's usually so super clear, which is the empowering path, and which would be the more difficult path. To any of you, and Lisa, you reminded me of this, because this was something when I used to read regularly in New York, I would never see somebody. Do you guys have time limits between clients in that, like, would you see someone like 2 weeks in a row, 3 weeks in a row? No, yeah, some yes, some no. So I used to say, you know, only once every 6 months, you need to go do the work.
I have only one that I see like one day and the next, and when he's crazy all the time. Only one. That one I told you already about. That guy is the only one. He's like, I want today and tomorrow, and you know, he's the only guy.
it kind of depends on the person and what they're
Yeah.
looking into. If they're looking for a job promotion and they're preparing themselves, they've got like a set thing that they decide they're going to do. And then, you know, I'll say, well, you know, 3 weeks, a month later, let me know how it's going, you know, check in with me.
Yeah, right, of course. Well, you're working on a creative collaboration, like, yeah, like with a choreographer who's putting together a show. But like, but in general, like, are you guys comfortable with people saying that when it seems like people are becoming dependent on you, is that something that you put down boundaries about pretty easily?
Well, I like to say things happen in 3 cycles of 3. So I like to say 3 months at minimum.
Right.
Yeah, 3 months, 3 weeks. Yeah, that's a good. Or, you know, like in the spring, it's fall now. Come back, and it kind of depends on, you know, like if they're graduating, and you know, it kind of depends on their life situation and what's going on and what they want how they want to move forward.
It's a different question each time, not the same. He's not coming back. Help.
Sometimes they come
Yeah,
for
yeah.
different issues. There is also people who come, they
Isn't
say
that
like for something and then come back a week later for something else, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yes, what?
Especially, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Patty?
Yeah, actually, along those lines, like, what do you do if you have somebody that still wants to come? And I have one person that, you know, I told her, I was like, you know, let's do every 2 months, you know, but she's still, and I do feel that sense of dependency. So how do you break away from that?
So
You're
what? What'd you say?
I have one client that is totally dependent, but this guy, he has a circumstance of his life. He's married and he has a lover for 8 years, and he's always to be killed. He's always to be killed by one of them, and he always in trouble. So this guy is something else. It's a different circumstances. Somebody's gonna kill him today, so he's desperate.
Now that is for entertainment purposes. That's my
But I think Patty, to your question, I think that it really comes down with just being very like, look, you know, I want the best for you, but it's not in my best interest or in your best interest right now for us to read again. For like, that's beautiful. Like using 3 months, 3 weeks. That's like a great, it's magical, it's mystical. Things do come in threes. So that's a nice way to, and to get out of it. Or to and I think that people will respect you for that. And then you can also, like, something I was going to put out there to you guys, I don't know if you've had crazy phone calls or conversations, like I think we tend to draw certain types of people to us, just the same way we draw everything else in our life to us. But by the nature of what we do, sometimes we get these kind of really crazy requests, or sort of I have been spooked out sometimes from some of the calls that I've gotten and the requests that I've had for people to do things like spells and hexes and all kinds of like dark, not, it doesn't happen a lot, but it really would freak me out when I would talk to these people on the phone. And I think that it's really important to be able to say no and have a backup reader that you can suggest. Say, you know what, this is really not my jam, or seeing somebody regularly, it's really not what I'm comfortable doing, but here's the name and number and email of this wonderful reader. You should definitely reach out to them. That's also, I think, a great way to sort of like point them in another direction and just be like, you know, thank you, but no thank you. And then, you know, leaving space for them to come back to you if they so choose, and if you want to read for them. And that's, you know, that's the other interesting thing, is that when we're reading for others, we are also reading for ourselves, right? It's energy that we are sitting with. It's there's so much that goes on during a reading, that give and take. So there's, you know, that imprint that you take home with you at the end of the night, even if you're really good at grounding and placing energetic boundaries around yourself. So thank you for asking that question. That's a really, and does anybody else have any advice to that point?
I just have to say, because I've dealt with peer counseling and things in the past, and you do get a certain, like you said, a certain kind of personality that gravitates towards this kind of work and being serviced by this kind of provider. Because I think in a real way, we are caring for these people, and maybe in some real ways, they're not finding that kind of support or that kind of care or that kind of validation outside. So it's almost like they're getting a hit every time they come. It's not even about the reading anymore. It's just about the attention they're receiving. So I think it's very important. It's not just even energetically, it's just having very clear set boundaries from the get-go. On my webpage, where I have like, well, I have a weird little situation, but on my webpage, I make it very clear. I'm not a psychic. I don't read minds. I don't do all of this stuff. And you can only come see me once a quarter. And then after they agree to all of that, then they get to be able to request and send me their information.
Mhm.
But I also make it very clear. this is what I will do for you. And then that's it. And then it's up to them to say, well, damn it, she's not going to cuddle me like my mom. But, but I think it's a very fine line for us, especially if people don't have any kind of background work in therapy or any kind of peer support, to recognize those personalities, because those personalities are sneaky.
Mhm.
You know, the other thing, I like that idea about offering someone that you know of, like being upfront and saying, you know, look, I don't do that type of reading or that type of service. You know, you don't have any hexes or whatever. You just say, you know, I don't do, or personally, I don't answer any questions around pregnancy. I just don't do it. I don't go there. You have to go to your doctor. That's
Can
it.
I? Oh, that's so. I had that on my list of things to write because it's. I was going through the ethics
Yeah.
and
So
boundaries.
there's certain things, you know, legal matters, you consult the professional, you consult a lawyer. So there's certain things you just right up front, you put it out on the table, you put your truth on the table, and then they have to deal with it. Oh, this isn't the person for me. Or, you know, well, I want to talk to you about something else, have something else to ask you. So that is one way. The other thing is giving them another person to go to that that you may know of that does that sort of service that they're looking for. But the other thing that I have found really helpful in regards to what you were talking about, different types of personalities and their codependencies and so on, is having a list of local organizations that they could turn to, call and give them the name of the organization and telephone number, or say, you know, I have a couple of resources for you I want you to look into. I'll email them to you if you have their email. I mean, depending on your relationship with this person, you could just give it to them right then and there
Mhm.
and say, I think, you know, this will be really what you're looking for, and point them towards an organization that you know, that first of all is upstanding in the community, you know, that is good for them to go to, like a suicide hotline or something like that, depending on what you're dealing with. So have those things in your pocket, so to speak, right next to you, so that you're prepared and you can, you know, lead them in a good direction. You know, you're still being honest, you're protecting yourself legally, first of all, and you are being helpful to that individual. And again, you know, it's their choice whether they decide to follow that, but at least you offered that, and you can have good conscience that, you know, you were being helpful.
So thank you for that. And one of the we're actually, it's time to already go into the reading rooms. But I do want to ask this question because this was interesting when I used to read for parties. How many of you, when you read for the public, like when you're at a table at an event and you've just been hired to read for whoever's there, how many of you remove the death card? And do you, have you ever? No, wait, I want some of you guys to weigh in here. Marianella, I saw you have a big reaction.
Death is part of life, baby. We can't have life without death. Fuck you if you don't want to deal with it. Then you better stay home. Maybe, no.
So you would never take it out. But anyway,
Forever, ever. No, I'm Mexican. We fucking dance with death. It's our favorite holiday.
So let me ask
You know, Sasha, one thing about the death card, you have a few decks. They are very, you know, marshmallow death. You know, you have some decks that they have the death, which is the Sleeping Beauty. You know, so depending on where you go, you have a different deck. You know, I have a deck which is the Inner Child card, which is the death is the Sleeping Beauty. And once I went to a party to read for young kids, I was, you know, I had to go there. But you know, all the kids, they ask the same question. They call me auntie and they say, I'm going to go to the next grade. Please let me know. That's the only question. All the kids, you know, so it's cute, you know. So depending on where you go, you have a different type of deck.
That's
Yes.
interesting. Right. So that, which leads me to my next question for you guys, is what do you do when you're at like a public gathering reading and little kids come up to the table? Do you read for little kids, or do you ask them to flip a card and tell you what they see? How do you deal with like a shy child who walks up but wants a reading?
Oh, I first, you need to get the parents' permission. You can't be telling strange little children anything. I think if they're curious about what it is, then you explain what it is. You let them look at the cards. You tell them what the card is. But no, unless, I mean, even if the parent gave you permission, giving it for anyone under the age of like, I don't know, 10, 12, it just seems like it's just too easy to like give them ideas that they're going to take with them the rest of their lives. And I'm like, shit, I still remember some of the stuff people told me when I was too young to hear things that I still take with me. So
Right, right.
Is that, like, how many people here tonight have done that, like readings at a party or readings out at a fair where, you know, you don't have any privacy? I've never done that on purpose because I don't feel like whatever, I feel that confidentiality element isn't there, and I wouldn't know how to handle it. So I've just stayed away from it. I just want to see, like, could you show like who's done that?
Well, I was going to do a Renaissance fair, but you know, COVID happened. But I was going to bring along like one of the fairy tale style decks for when people come by. And of course, like Marinella said, you know, you ask for permission, but it would be such a cutesy deck, you know, that it would just be something for the little ones to engage in.
You would pull out a different deck for the
Yeah, a
Yeah.
totally different fairy tale, you know, Amy Brown or whatever, you know.
yeah, like
And-
a
Yeah,
And
I'll let them
one-
play.
one
I'll
thing-
let 'em play with the cards. Like I'll have
And
kids
one-
sometimes that are sitting with their parents, getting a reading, and you know they're all curious and they're getting in there. So I'll usually have, you know, these are pre-COVID days, but I'll usually have a fun deck that I can just let them sit aside and let them play with the cards and just explore. And I have plenty of time to do the reading while that's going on.
Just say one more thing. Lucian, you're making too much noise. Keep it down there, buddy. Keep it down.
Lucian,
It's down there.
hop in on this. What do you have? Do you have something you'd like to say? I know you do. Thank you, Ginger. Lucian.
He's speechless.
Hi. Hello.
There you are.
Hi, Ginger. How are you?
I'm better now. Thank you. Better now that you're here.
Did you have anything to speak to, like any of the points that we've brought up tonight, Lucian?
Yes, I've had girl clients walk in wanting a reading. If they look under 16, ask them, how old are you? And then say, look, I'm not going to read for you unless I speak to your mother on the mobile phone. So I then check that she's spoken to mother and I've seen the mother and I've talked to mother. I don't think it's a good idea reading for anybody under 16 unless you've got the mother's permission. Now, when I've done that, it worked out okay because she turned up the following week and brought her mother. Thought it was good. But after I did read for her by herself, but as long as you've got a parent's permission, you know, and you've seen it, you've spoken to her, don't take somebody's word it's okay with their parents. Talk to the mother first and say, hi, I'm a tarot reader. Your daughter's with me. She wants a reading. What do I do? You know.
Hello? That's great. No, that's great. That's great advice.
Sasha, one thing that we have to keep in mind that the kids today are not the same kids that we were, you know, so kids today is something else, you know, so since we have a cute tarot deck for kids, and of course, like Lucien said, permission from the parents, I think we are okay to go. Of course, we're going to measure our words. We have, you know, to have another approach. They call
Or
me
specific
auntie.
little
So they say,
instant
auntie, see if
spread.
I'm gonna go to the next grade. You know, so they are cute doing reading for
Right.
kids. You know, I think they're super cute.
I think that's, I mean, I think this is just all great stuff to talk about, to think about, you know, and just to sort of arm yourself with in advance to think about this stuff before it presents itself. So you're not kind of like on the spot going, I'm not sure how to handle this. We already went over, it's 8:42, but I do want to put you guys in rooms together because I also want you to get to know each other. Now, typically, and tonight was a little bit different. Normally I do a PowerPoint and then like I have like a themed spread that I give you guys. I'm really happy. It was just really great to just talk like this with all of you. My spread to you tonight was going to be one predictive and one proactive card. So I was going to ask you guys each to read for each other a 2-card spread, predictive and proactive. I'm going to put you guys into rooms and let's see, 2, 4, and then, I'll probably be reading with one of you because I think we're odd. So either you can do a predictive proactive if you like, or do any spread you feel like. But from Andrea, I have learned a lot. Andrea is just popping up in the chats. Oh, good. I'm glad you got a lot out of tonight. So you guys are free to do whatever spreads you would like to do. Again, you'll have 15 minutes. I'll put you in the breakout rooms and you'll get a message from me 60 minutes before I'm closing the rooms. So here we go. 5 rooms. See you guys in 15 minutes. Hello. Hi.
Hi. It was super cool. Thank you,
Yeah, that
Lisa.
was cool. Thank you, Claudia.
I love your
Nice.
braid. Do you wear braids a lot, or is that new tonight?
Huh?
Your braids, I love them. Do you often wear braids?
This? Yeah, no, sometimes. Sometimes. Yeah. It is cool. Very cool.
Oh,
I love being here. I love Tarot Tuesday.
it's nice, isn't it? It's a good.
Yeah, I look forward to it all week.
Do you do this every week, Sasha?
I do, yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
I'm totally coming back.
Oh,
I
good.
love this.
Oh, I'm so glad. I hope you.
So do we have to sign up for each class
No,
separately?
no, you don't. So once you have the link, and I have to remember. I have to remember to copy the link for next week. But no, once you have this link, this should do you.
For every Tuesday?
For every Tuesday.
Okay.
And you can always check in. I always post the topic on Monday on Instagram. And on Monday, it'll also be on my website under the event page. So if you need the link again and you can't find it, just RSVP again, and it'll send out to you. Yeah, it's just an opportunity to I don't know, have some tarot fun and talk about this stuff. It's good. It's important. Yeah. So
Yeah, because I was telling Patty that I basically been just teaching myself by my own, reading books for the last 2 years. And so I finally done, I'm like, okay, I need to get friends. I need a group.
it's so fun. It's so helpful. When I first went professional, I was like, I had taught myself with books and stuff, but I was like,
Yeah.
I should find a school or something. And I Googled tarot school, and there was a tarot school, literally the tarot school in New York, just 5 blocks from my house on Monday nights.
Wow.
And it became I didn't even know there was such a thing as a tarot community. It was and we've all become, this was years ago, but we're all still so close. Everybody from that time together. And of course, the tarot school is incredible. They, by the way, if anybody wants to do official class, they've just brought their Monday night salons onto Zoom. So, which is great. I'm even going to go back to some of them because they had moved them out of Manhattan and into Queens, and it was just too long of a night for me to go. But if you're interested in some really wonderful, serious esoteric study, I hear Wald Amberstone's voice in my head. still to this day. So I'm so glad you guys, I'm so glad that the new ones of you enjoyed it. And yeah, please come back. I end every night with a card for the week. So our card for the week, and our card for and this is from the Darkwood Tarot, and it's for Thanksgiving, also as well, like this energy of like food and friends and conversation. Oh, your card for the week is the Hermit.
Oh.
Now I love this because it's got, like, when I look at this card, it's kind of got the two fold information, because on one hand, right, you are such a source of light for the people who are around you. And when you're standing in your truth, when you're standing in that high priestess place, when you're just expressing yourself from your deepest, most authentic place, you are a shining light and beacon. But also, Lucian, mute yourself. I think I can hear you. But then there's also this idea of the hermit who knows how to set boundaries if you're going to be with other people or whatever this week, of knowing when to kind of step away, and knowing when to separate yourself from the energy that might not be really feeling good for you. And I think that, especially with this being like the pandemic 2020, just going out of your way to engage in space and energy that feels good for you, that feels restorative for you, that feels spiritually nurturing to you, is so super important. So yeah, for all of us, really take both sides of the Hermit with you this week.
No, it's saying stay home, don't go in that traffic.
Yeah, stay home. Use it as an excuse, right? Like, were we talking about this last week? Like, what a kind of a nice excuse.
But Sasha, I'm gonna make a video for a friend of mine who is in New York, and I'm gonna send to you too. On Saturday, I'm gonna film the restaurants. You know, you're not gonna believe what is going on here. It's so scary. I look at that and I say, my God, these people are crazy.
People are crazy.
Yeah.
What Elizabeth Gilbert on her Instagram was hilarious this week. She's like, people are absolutely amazing when they're not being crazy. Like, you know what I mean? People are insane and people are wonderful, right? And it's that both things. So I just, keep yourselves safe and have a beautiful, beautiful week, and eat really good food and read
Lots of pumpkin pie.
Lots of pumpkin pie. And cheese. Good night, everybody.
Bless everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye.